Welcome to English with Zenko Master. Get ready to learn something new today.
The first time I saw the beach turn brown, I was 10 years old. The waves were not loud and the wind was not strong, but something felt wrong. The water was not blue like before. It was dark and full of small pieces of plastic. My older sister stood next to me. She pointed to something on the sand. It was a dead fish near a plastic bag. We looked at it without speaking. We used to run on this beach and play with shells. That day, we just stood still and watched the dirty sea. That was the moment I started to feel afraid for the world. My name is Emily. I lived with my family in a small town in Cornwall, England. It was a quiet place with old fishing boats and green hills. There were a few shops and one school. Most people worked in cafes or on boats. My parents worked hard every day. My father worked early mornings at a cafe, and in the evenings he helped a friend with cleaning jobs. My mother cleaned houses and worked at a small bakery on weekends. My sister Chloe was 13 then. She was very smart and wanted to be a lawyer. She loved school, and her teachers always said she had a big future. Our house was small. We had 2 bedrooms, and the walls were thin. Sometimes I could hear my parents talking late at night. They worried about bills, school fees, and food. One night, I heard Chloe say something that made me feel cold inside. She told my parents that she wanted to leave school and help with the money. My mom said no at first, but Chloe said it again and again. She said I was young and still in school, and someone had to support the family. The next morning, Chloe didn't wear her school uniform. She made toast and smiled like everything was normal. But her books were gone. I knew she had decided to stop learning so I could keep going. I didn't know how to feel. I was sad, but also thankful. That day, I told myself I would work hard in school for both of us. School was not always easy for me. I liked my classes, but sometimes I didn't understand everything. I was quiet and didn't talk much to the other girls. But I had a good teacher named Mrs. Benson. She had short brown hair and kind eyes. She always smiled at me and said I had a good heart. One day, she showed us a video in science class. It was about the ocean and how it was changing. We saw fish eating plastic and birds stuck in bottles. We saw children in another country drinking water from a dirty river. That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about the children and the water. I thought about the beach and the dead fish. I felt angry, but I didn't know what to do. I told Chloe about the video. She sat next to me and listened. I told her I wanted to help the planet. She didn't laugh. She just put her arm around me and said, "Then you will, Emily. You always care too much." After that, I started reading more about the environment, borrowed books from the school library. I watched videos about climate change and clean energy. I started picking up rubbish from the beach on weekends. I didn't tell anyone. I just did it. It made me feel better, like I was doing something, even if it was small. Mrs. Benson started to notice me staying after class. She gave me small books to read and asked me to write short reports. One day, she asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up. I said I didn't know for sure, but maybe I wanted to work with nature or help people learn how to protect the earth. She looked happy when I said that. She told me that there were programs around the world for young people who wanted to learn more about the environment. A few weeks later, she gave me a brochure. It was for a student program in a country called Rivera, which was in South Asia. The program was for young learners who cared about the earth. It was about climate, clean water, and helping small communities. I was surprised. I had never been outside England. I didn't know anything about Rivera. But I took the brochure home and showed it to Chloe. She looked at it and said, "You should try, Emily. If they pick you, we will find a way." I filled out the form with Mrs. Benson's help. I had to write an essay about why the environment was important to me. I wrote about the beach and the fish and the way I felt when I saw children drinking dirty water. I wrote that I wanted to help, even if I was only a girl from a small town. After I sent the form, I tried not to think about it. I went to school. I cleaned the kitchen after dinner. I read my books and kept picking up rubbish on the beach. One morning, Mrs. Benson came into class holding an envelope. She looked excited and called my name. I stood up slowly. She gave me the envelope and told me to open it. Inside was a letter. I read the first line and felt my hands shake. It said that I had been accepted into the student program. I read it again to make sure it was real. Then I looked at Mrs. Benson. She was crying. The other students clapped. I felt warm all over. I couldn't wait to tell Chloe. That night, Chloe cried too. She hugged me and said, "I knew they would choose you." I said I wasn't sure if I could go. It was far and expensive. We didn't have money for the flight or the new clothes I would need, but Chloe just smiled and said, "Leave that to me." In the next days, Chloe worked longer hours. She asked for extra shifts at the fish shop. My mom gave me her small savings, and my dad spoke to a neighbor who helped us find a second-hand suitcase. Mrs. Benson gave me a warm coat and a pair of shoes. I didn't feel ready, but I had no choice. I had to try. Before I left, I went to the beach one more time. I stood near the same rocks where the dead fish had been years ago. The water still looked brown. I bent down and picked up a broken bottle. Then I wrote in my notebook, "I don't know what I will find in Rivera. I don't know what I will learn, but I will try. I want to help people. I want to make this beach clean again. I will come back." That was the last night I slept in my little room in Cornwall. The next morning, my family took me to the train station. Chloe held my hand the whole way. She didn't say much. When the train came, she gave me a small bag. "Open this when you miss home," she said. I nodded and stepped onto the train. I waved through the window. Chloe waved back. She looked strong, but I saw her wipe her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking. As the train moved away, I held the bag close. I didn't open it yet. I just held it and looked out the window. The hills of Cornwall passed by. The sea disappeared, and my new life began. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, Where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. When I arrived in Rivera, the air felt different. It was warm and heavy, and the streets were full of sound. There were cars, bikes, buses, and people everywhere. I held my bag close and tried not to look too lost. A man from the student program met me at the airport. He smiled and held a sign with my name on it. His name was Aaron, and he spoke slowly and kindly. "Welcome, Emily," he said. "You are safe now. Let's go to the student house." The student house was in a busy part of the city. It was a big white building with 10 small rooms and a shared kitchen. There were students from different countries. Some came from big cities, others from small villages like me. Everyone spoke English, but with different accents. I felt shy at first. I was the youngest in the group. Most of the students were older and already in college. I was only 15. I missed Chloe. I missed our beach. I missed the cold air of Cornwall. The first week was hard. The food was new to me. There was rice, spicy vegetables, and sweet drinks I had never tasted. I didn't sleep well. At night, I read Chloe's letters. She had written 3 small notes and hidden them in my bag. One said, "I believe in you." Another said, "Don't be afraid to speak." The third note was the one I read the most. It said, "You are there for a reason." Each day, we had classes about the environment. We learned about clean water, pollution, farming, and how to speak with communities. Our teacher was a woman named Dr. Maya. She was tall and had strong eyes. She spoke clearly and gave us many questions. "What does your home need?" she asked me on the first day. I didn't know how to answer. I said, "My beach needs to breathe again." She smiled and said, "That's a good start." After class, we visited small villages outside the Kia city. We saw rivers full of waste, farms with dry soil, and schools without clean toilets. I felt sad, but also strong. I started to understand more. The problem was not just in my town. It was everywhere. People needed help, and not just with money. They needed hope. They needed people to listen and to care. One day, during a group activity, I sat next to a girl with dark hair and a bright scarf. She smiled at me and said, "You look tired." I laughed and said, "I miss home." Her name was Nisha. She was from a mountain town near the border. Her father was a teacher, and her mother worked with plants. Nisha was funny and smart. She liked to draw pictures of trees and rivers. We started to talk more. She showed me her notebook, and I showed her mine. Nisha made me feel less alone. She helped me understand the local language a little. She taught me how to eat with my hands and how to ask for water politely. We shared stories about our families. I told her about Chloe and the beach. She told me about her town, where people walked for hours to find clean water. One evening, we sat on the roof of the student house. The sky was full of stars. "I used to feel small," I said. "You are not small," she said. You are just beginning. After that, I worked harder. I took more notes in class. I asked questions. I joined a group project with Nisha. We had to design a simple plan to help a small village clean their water. We chose a village near the hills. We spoke to the people, took photos, and asked what they needed. Then we worked on a plan. It was not perfect, but it was clear. We showed how rainwater could be collected in tanks. We made posters with simple pictures. We used short words so everyone could understand. When we presented our plan to the teachers, I was nervous. My hands were cold. But Nisha stood next to me and smiled. Just speak like you are talking to your sister, she said. So I did. I talked about the fish, the bottles, the broken beach. I said people should not feel ashamed for needing help. I said every child should drink clean water. After our presentation, Dr. Maya stood up. She looked at me and said, You are learning not just with your mind, but with your heart. I felt my eyes fill with tears. I missed Chloe more than ever. A few weeks later, our time in Rivera was almost over. I had to say goodbye to the student house and to Nisha. On our last day, she gave me a bracelet made of small wooden beads. To remember the land, she said. I gave her one of my notebooks. Inside, I had drawn a picture of our beach with clean waves and birds in the sky. I flew back to Cornwall with a full heart. When I saw Chloe at the train station, I ran into her arms. She had lost some weight, and her hands were dry from working, but her eyes were full of joy. You're home, she said. I'm home, I said. At dinner, I told my family everything. I showed them pictures and spoke about rainwater tanks and clean toilets. My father listened with pride. My mother held my hand. Chloe just smiled and said, What's next? I didn't know yet. I was still young. I didn't have a degree or a job, but I had seen things. I had learned to care in a new way. That week, I went to our old school and spoke to Mrs. Benson. I told her about Rivera and the small villages. She cried when I showed her the photos. You have changed, she said, but you are still Emily. Yes, I said, and I want to do more. Mrs. Benson spoke to the school director. Together we started a weekend group for children. We called it Earth Hour. Each Saturday, 10 to 15 students came to learn about the planet. We used old posters and played simple games. We taught about plastic, water, trees, and air. I didn't feel like a teacher, but the children listened. Some even brought their parents. Chloe helped me prepare the snacks and clean the classroom after each session. Later that year, I used my experience from Rivera to apply for a national award. It was for young people who worked in their communities. I didn't win, but my story was shared online. More people came to visit our little group. A local newspaper wrote about it. They called me the girl with a beach dream. I laughed when I read that, but I also felt proud. I wasn't a doctor or a scientist. I didn't wear a white coat, but I was helping in my own way. One Sunday, I took a group of students to the beach. We picked up plastic and cleaned the rocks. The sun was low, and the sea looked blue again. I stood near the same place where Chloe and I had found the dead fish. This time, I saw birds flying and children laughing. I took out my notebook and wrote something simple. This is not the end. This is where we start. After that day at the beach, something changed inside me. I started to believe that small actions could really make a difference. Every time a child picked up a piece of rubbish or asked a question about the planet, I felt proud. The weekend group became bigger. More families from the town joined us. We made signs to put near the sea that said, "Keep our beach clean and protect our nature." We didn't have much money, so we used old cardboard and paints. But people stopped and looked. Some even joined in to help. At school, Mrs. Benson told me there was a small grant from the town council. She helped me write the application. It was for young leaders who worked in the community. I wrote about our group, the cleanup days, and how the children were learning. A few weeks later, we got the money. It was not a lot, but it was enough to buy books, games, and materials for the sessions. I remember holding the envelope and feeling like I had been given a gift. I ran home and told Chloe. She smiled and said, "You're making something real now." With the money, we bought simple science kits, storybooks about nature, and seeds for planting. We started a small garden behind the school. The children loved it. They came every Saturday to water the plants and check on the flowers. One of the younger boys said, "It's like we are building our own forest." I laughed, but I also agreed. We were building something. Even with all this good news, life was not always easy. My family still had problems with money. My dad's back started to hurt, and he had to stop working extra hours. My mom got sick one winter and had to rest for a few weeks. Chloe worked more at the shop. I helped at home after school. Sometimes I felt tired and confused. I was still young, and I was not sure what my future would be. I wanted to study more, but I didn't know how. One afternoon, Mrs. Benson called me to her office. She told me about a college program in London. It was not free, but they offered help for students who had experience in community work. She said I should apply. I didn't know if I was good enough. I had never left Cornwall, except for Rivera. London felt far and big, but I trusted Mrs. Benson, so I said yes. I spent many nights working on the application. Chloe helped me with the grammar. We didn't have a computer, so I went to the library to type everything. When I was done, I sent it and waited. The weeks felt long. I tried not to think about it, but every day I checked the mailbox. Then one morning, a letter came. I opened it slowly. My heart was beating fast. The first line said, "Congratulations." I had been accepted. I would start the program in September. I ran to find Chloe and told her the news. She hugged me and cried. "You did it," she said. "You're going to college." Leaving home again was not easy. I packed my things and said goodbye to the children in our group. They made me a card with drawings of trees and the sea. One girl wrote, "Thank you, Emily, for teaching us to care." I kept that card in my notebook. When I arrived in London, I was surprised. The buildings were tall and the streets were busy. The college was full of students from many places. I shared a small room with another girl named Priya. She was kind and helped me find my way. The classes were hard at first. The teachers spoke fast and the books were thick. But I kept going. I remembered what Chloe had given up for me. I remembered Rivera, the bracelet from Nisha, and the promise I made at the beach. In one class, we learned how to design simple environmental projects. I used our Cornwall beach group as my example. My teacher liked the idea and told me to keep developing it. Another class was about public speaking. I was afraid to stand in front of people, but I practiced. I told the story of Chloe and the plastic on the beach. After my speech, a student came to me and said, "You reminded me of my sister." In London, I also joined a student club for climate action. We organized events and spoke at local schools. I met students who cared like I did. Some were studying science, others law or education. We shared ideas and learned from each other. I felt like I was part of something bigger now. I still missed home, but I also saw a new world opening. Every month I wrote to Chloe. I told her about the classes, the people, and the city. She always wrote back with short notes. "Keep going. We are proud." And "Don't forget where you started." Her words helped me stay strong. At the end of the year, we had a final project. We had to plan a real activity in our home area. I chose to return to Cornwall and expand our weekend group. This time, I wanted to include teenagers too. I spoke with the school and the council. They agreed to let me use the old library room. I called it the Green Room. It was a place for learning, talking, and taking action. When I came back home, Chloe met me at the station again. She looked older and her hands had more lines, but her smile was the same. She helped me set up the room with books and posters. We cleaned the floors and painted the walls light green. The first Saturday, I was nervous. I didn't know if anyone would come. But slowly, the children arrived. Then a few teenagers came. One brought a friend. Another brought her little brother. We talked about rivers, air, and how to care for animals. We played games and watched short videos. I didn't speak like a teacher. I spoke like Emily. I spoke from the heart. Chloe sat in the back and watched. At the end of the session, she came to me and said, "You've built something real." And it started with a walk on a dirty beach. That night, I wrote in my notebook again. It was the same one I had taken to Rivera. "I'm not a hero. I am not perfect. But I care. And I will keep going." Years have passed since that day. I finished college and now work with a small organization that supports schools with green projects. I still go back to Cornwall often. The Green Room is still open, and Chloe now helps lead the sessions. We laugh about how everything began. One sunny morning, I stood near the same rock at the beach and saw something I had never seen before. The water was clear, and there were children playing near the edge. One of them was holding a bag and picking up rubbish. He turned and waved at me. "Are you Miss Emily?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "My teacher said you helped clean this beach," he said. I smiled and nodded. I looked at the sea, the sky, and the children. This was the dream. Not a big office or a loud stage. Just a beach, a child, and hope.